Welcome to the SMO Podcast. My name is Whitney, and today I'll be asking each guest 7 questions in 7 minutes. Here is the first look of our guest that will be speaking live on our stage. Look below to see what you'll say differently. And here is our next episode. Welcome. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Whitney, and I'm here with the SMO Podcast today. We have a special guest speaker that you'll be hearing from, and I'm excited. She's calling all the way in from England. Sheila Mulvenney. Can you tell us, for everyone that is watching right now, who are you and what do you do?
Okay, well, I suppose the first thing I'd say is I'm a mum and a grandma because they're really important parts of my life. But I'm an educator primarily, I suppose, do lots of training. In the past, I've been a nurse and a health visitor and a teacher. Passionate about well-being, I suppose, in its widest possible sense. But one of the things I do in particular is helping people, I suppose, who want to change. People who are at a point in their life where they think, there's more than this, I want to change, and I can facilitate that if they want to. That's always a really important thing. I think some people feel a bit stuck where they are, but they maybe don't actually want to change because change is a little bit scary often, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think that is so just relatable, because I think a lot of us, often say we want the change, but doing the things to get there is a bit harder in the process. So for you, Sheila, I'd love to know kind of how you got started in the first place and what actually led you to take this path seriously.
Okay. Well, I suppose there's been various key things along the way. As I say, I do see well-being as kind of a wholeness kind of thing, but there were a few key moments. One being working when I was teaching a lot of adults, actually, who were going on to, as mature students, and one of them who was 50 at the time, which seemed ancient to me because this was a lot of years ago. Now 50 seems really young, but there you go. Age is wonderfully relative. And she was saying, on the day that she was getting her qualification, which was a level 5, it was a high up qualification. And she said, I wish my teacher was here to see me, my maths teacher. And I said, why? Was he always like a real supporter? And she said, no, he always told me I'd amount to nothing. And that really just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks, that actually here was this woman who was 50 and still had this voice in her head, even though there was lots of evidence to prove that that wasn't the case. And she still believed those words that were said to her years ago. So that made me do quite a lot of extra study around things like neurolinguistic programming and mindset. And hence out of that, I wrote the book, Make It Magnificent, which is all about the influence our mindset has on us every single day. And often it's completely subconscious. We don't realize those things are kind of running away in the background, but they are absolutely dictating a lot of what we do. So I can give a couple of examples if you like.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So for example, if someone somehow has got the idea, and often these come from when we're quite young, that maybe they're not very lovable, or maybe they don't deserve to be loved, then actually what you'll see through the course of their life is they will sabotage almost every relationship that they have. And that's so sad because, of course, we know that their mind might tell them, well, no one's going to love you. But that's just a thought that their mind has. It's not fact. But the brain is such a wonderful machine that it will all the time be seeking to prove to us and find evidence for us of what we believe. So if you do believe that no one's going to love you, guess what your brain is going to focus on? All the things that could help you, provide evidence that actually no one is going to love you. And that's all happening at a subconscious level, which I think is a bit we don't always realize. We're just going through life thinking, why does this happen? And why does it happen again? And why does it happen again? And actually, it's happening for a very good reason.
That is so beautiful. Honestly, there were so many key takeaways in what you said, because I think one of the things that I really took note on is the fact that you took somebody else's experience of listening to limiting beliefs or outside voices that affected them and did a study on that to actually create an experience and a result to help them to transform their life, to transform that limiting belief into something empowering. And so what a beautiful full circle moment of just being able to use that person's experience to shed light on that. I think that is very unique.
Although also I would have to say in doing that, it uncovered for me a lot of things that I didn't actually realize I was operating within. I have a sister, still have a sister who has very severe sort of disabilities, and she was older than me. So
Mhm.
somehow I think I had lovely, loving parents. I never doubted for a day in my life that I was loved, but somehow I never felt that I could make a fuss. I never felt that my voice could be very loud, if that makes sense, because she needed such a lot of help and care. And that was, that's another example of it's no one's fault. These things just sometimes can embed within us without us even realizing we're there. So it took quite a lot of time for me to get to the fact that actually I can make a choice. I can say what I want. I don't always have to be doing what everybody else needs. Although I couldn't say that for a long time, that isn't what I did. Because,
Yeah.
when you have those beliefs, they're immensely powerful. Yeah, it took a long time. If someone said, "What should we have for a takeaway?" I'd say, "Oh, well, would you like? What's your favorite? What's your favorite?" Not, "I'd like this." So
Yeah.
it does take work, and I think that is one of the things that we often want to change, but actually, do we want to do the work? Yeah.
Absolutely. You know what? I think besides loving your voice, I think there's so much to love here because not only are you teaching from practical strategies, but you're also teaching from experience. And
Mm.
so it allows everyone to really resonate and to learn from you. And I think the viewer that is watching that today, if you're not already taking notes, make sure you are because there's already a lot of wisdom being shared here today. And so I would love to just kind of tap a little bit more into your story, Sheila, and share with us, was there ever a moment where you felt like you wanted to quit but didn't?
Oh gosh, so many, so many moments. Yeah, and I think one of the things that I've had to um, work on myself about is everyone says if you want to be successful in various areas, you have to kind of niche down. You have to have just one niche. You have to be really specific. But unfortunately, or fortunately, actually, there's certain things I'm not prepared to let go of. So often I've been at the point of giving up and think I must let go of because I teach phonics to school teachers. I also teach about trauma to teachers and social workers about supporting children with trauma because I've done a lot of work with children that were in care. And it's like, no, I want to do this work too. I do this work, this helping people with their mindset and wanting to change, but I can't let go of the other things because they're important to me too. And actually, when everyone's telling you you need to do this, it's quite hard to think, well, actually, do I? And there's been times when I thought, you know what? I won't bother with any of it because I just can't get to the point where I pick one. Because almost everyone I've tried to work with people who are about, coaches and things like that. Well, you need to pick one area. And it's like, wow, do I really? I don't know. So at the minute, I have various things that I do, but this is one of the things I would say I'm passionate about all of them because they do all overlap. As I say, I mentioned I work in care. Well, there's a good really strong mindset because from the get go, they've had a gazillion experiences that say they're not worth very much. They are also often the children that have experienced massive trauma, and that means in school their behaviour is quite challenging. And obviously, that often means that they're the ones who can't read. So they are kind of all connected. Although the book I wrote, Make It Magnificent, is not relevant to the children. That's very much for us as kind of functional adults. But when we're starting to think, wait a minute, what dynamics are going here on here? So I think I've had several moments, particularly working with coaches, where I've thought, do I want to give up? And I think I haven't given up, but there's certain things I haven't taken because it didn't feel authentic to me. And I think one of the things you've got to do is being kind of in alignment with yourself, haven't you? You can never be authentic if you're squashing down parts of yourself, I think. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It makes complete sense. And I love that you focus on like the behaviors and the limiting beliefs, but also turning that into something that, can be empowering and that we can work.
Mm,
I would love to ask because I feel like a lot of your work is focusing on the mindset, which you mentioned.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
for you, was there a mindset shift that changed everything?
I think the one mindset shift was, I think, that my life is mine to create. I think we often get into adulthood thinking that somehow it's kind of set for us. And obviously, I'm probably a different generation to a lot of people. At that point, it was very much you trained for something and you did it. And I remember sort of leaving nursing after 4 or 5 years, and everyone saying, "What are you doing? That's a great career." But it's like, well, actually, I want to do something else now. I want a degree now. I want to do psychology now. And so I think for me, it was kind of not, I suppose, not one moment, but a journey that said, actually, I want to study again. I want to do more. I want to do something different. When I felt that, kind of the world wanted to shove me in a bit of a box. So it was more, and I think that's because it's like, well, actually, it's my life. I can create it the way I want, and I'm the only one that can create it the way I want. If I fit into other people's boxes, it's just never going to be what I want.
I love that perspective, and I think this is the first time that I'm actually hearing that when asking this question. And I love how you were able to again just tie it back to your own experience for you, because I think a lot of your work is making people feel seen and feel heard. Is what does being seen and heard personally mean to you?
Well, I think different things, and I think this goes back to my past because I think growing up with a sister with quite significant disabilities, I think does change you. She's been an amazing part of my story. And watching how she was treated in very different ways to me, but by society probably, has sort of made me, I suppose, focus a bit on, yeah, how we interact with the world all the time, and every one of those interactions can kind of change us. Yeah. So there were things, yeah, I mean, it's quite painful. One of my earliest memories was of people calling her names in the street and of my mum kind of, obviously being upset. And I was very young, but it's a very powerful memory. And I can remember feeling a bit like, why would people do that? I just don't understand. So I think for me, being seen was very much about everyone having a place, and me being seen doesn't mean somebody else has to be unseen, if that makes any kind of sense. And I think when again working, I was drawn into work with folk, yeah, as I say, nursing, and then into working with children. I did some tapping and things as well because I just always feel people need to get to that point where they can be seen and heard, because that's the only way they'll manage to create a life that really is theirs. Yeah.
That is so good. And one of the things that I really took away that I think those that are watching can really resonate as well is just because, me being seen doesn't make anyone else any less seen, and I love how you said that because we all have our unique message and voice and gifts on this earth to share, and it's so different, right? And so we can all have a piece of that. And I love how you shared that. Sheila, for just a little bit of a deeper dive into everything that you're creating to serve others, because you mentioned your book, the
Mhm.
the magnificent, what is
Yeah.
it,
So
magnificent,
it's called Make It Magnificent. Very much
make it magnificent, right?
yeah, about our lives, make it magnificent, how to live a fulfilling life. And it
Mm,
dives into these limiting beliefs that we have. And it
mm,
is a book to read, but it's almost like a workbook. It's not laid out like a workbook, but the idea is you stop and think about things. You consider, what are my limiting beliefs? What am I actually thinking about this? Where might that have come from? Those kind of things. And I've also got an ebook which is how to create a mindset for manifesting. Because again, I think some people are wanting to manifest a life, but they're never going to, because their heart of heart's belief is, I don't deserve this. So
mm.
that's kind of a companion. And yeah, so I've got an Instagram, a fairly new, well, it was actually an older Instagram, and then I was horribly hacked. It took me a while to get back into Instagram, but
So
I'm
what
really
would be the transformation that you think people get from
oh,
that you're
I
that
think
you're using to
yeah,
serve?
I think they would uncover their limiting beliefs, and therefore they can get rid of them and truly get rid of those shackles that sometimes might have held people for decades, for a large part of their life. It's a bit like there's that quote from Da Vinci, I says, and it says, voice inside you might say you can't paint, but if you paint, that voice will go quiet. There might be a voice saying, you can't be this, you can't be that, you can't do this, you'll never have this. But actually, if you start creating that, that voice goes away. Otherwise, you can just stay, you know, in its sort of influence all the time, really. Yeah.
So much wisdom. Oh, I love it. I, I absolutely love it. And I think, for you, I'd love to know, like, was there a belief that you needed to break in the becoming? Because I feel like a lot of us have beliefs
Yeah,
that limit us, that essentially, like you said, manifestation and all the things that we desire sometimes don't come to fruition because of our lack of belief.
absolutely. Yeah, I think the biggest belief I had to get rid of was that my job was to keep everybody else happy. As I say, I felt very loved by my parents, but somehow this job that I needed to stay quiet and make sure everyone else was happy. And I think I had to do a lot of, actually, I deserve to be happy. I can be happy. And sometimes, frankly, that will have an impact on other people, won't it? That's just the way it goes. If I want to, go traveling, that might make somebody else unhappy because they might miss me. But if that's something I need to do, then I need to do it if I want to do that. I'm not encouraging irresponsibility. You have responsibilities, but it is about sometimes yourself first. And I think that was my biggest shift that I had to do for myself. Yeah.
That's amazing. I feel like I've learned so much here. This is one of those episodes that I have to go back, I have to watch again, and I have to take notes on. Sheila, can you tell for everyone that is watching, is what is the best piece of advice you've ever received or given?
I think the best piece of advice I've ever received was from somebody who said, you can be whatever you want to be. Yeah. I think the best piece of advice I've probably given is similar. And what I would say to everyone, you can be whoever you want to be. Yeah.
Mm,
I think that is truly, so often the way we look at things alters how we respond to them. But actually, we are free to be who we want to be.
that's amazing. I love it. You have amazing advice, my friend. Can you tell us for everyone that is watching, how can we find you and connect with you and pick your brain a little bit more?
Absolutely. I'm on Instagram, just as I say, newly started. And my name is It's Make It Magnificent, which I think is my name. I think I got them in a muddle. And my username is Sheila Attuned with two A's.
Amazing. Well, I'm so excited, Sheila. I think you are definitely going to be on one of our stages, and we are going to be learning from you, not just today, but more so in the
Brilliant.
future. So, for everyone that is watching, make sure you stay tuned. You'll be seeing more of Sheila. Thank you for being here today.